We're in more relationships than we can count. Most of us are daughters, sons, brothers, sisters, cousins. Some of us are mothers, fathers, grandparents, guardians, step-parents. We're employees, we're neighbors, we're coaches, we're teachers, we're friends, we're sponsors. We are known and named in the context of our relationships. Our lives are centered around our relationships. And some of these relational names that we're known by, we hold with high honor. But I want to talk about the what if. What if the relationships in your life cause you the most pain? Or what if it's the relationships that you don't have in your life that cause you the most pain? And not just the what if, but the when. When the relationships in your life don't make you tenderhearted, but they make you hard-hearted. And when you've been shot down by people so many times, you can't remember the last time you've been accepted. When the relationships wound, do you sometimes ask, where is God? Do you see this? I want to paint a picture for us, so go with me here. I want you to imagine that you're at the beach. You've got sand in your toes, there's a slight breeze in the air. It's beginning to be evening, so the sun is just starting to set. There's some purple and orange in the sky. And you're surrounded by your family and friends. It's peaceful, it's calm. And Jesus is there too. You've actually spent most of the day listening to him as he's talking to people and sharing stories. And as the day is ending, he points to one of the boats and he says, hey, let's get on one of those boats and let's go to the other side of the sea. You agree, you're up for an adventure and you're curious about him. So you and your crew and Jesus, you get in this boat and you set sail. And as you're sailing along, a storm suddenly appears on the horizon. And it seemingly comes out of nowhere. And it's a big one. It's violent and it's severe and it's got hurricane force winds. And the winds start to pick up so much speed that you can't even walk on the boat deck. You're stumbling and you're falling. And you can't even hear your own voice as you call out to your friends. And the waves start to crash and to surge over the sides of the boat. And the efforts that you have in trying to get the water off the side, it's not really working in getting this storm under control. You're afraid, and you're actually starting to panic. The storm is getting worse. It's inevitable that you're going to sink. This wasn't supposed to be like this. But then you remember that Jesus is there, and so you frantically start looking for him on the boat. He's probably got buckets, and he's getting water over the side, or he's instructing people on what to do next. And so you stumble your way across the boat deck until you find him. And to your surprise, Jesus is asleep. He's got his head on a pillow and he's asleep. You're annoyed and you're a little bit confused. And by that time, your friends have found Jesus too, and you guys huddle around him and nudge him awake. And the question that you guys all ask simultaneously as you're looking at Jesus in the middle of the raging storm, is it nothing to you that we're going down? Is it nothing to you that I'm in the middle of this storm? Is it nothing to you that I've been betrayed? Is it nothing to you that I've been disappointed? Is it nothing to you that I'm in a relationship that I don't know how to get out of? Is it nothing to you that when I think community, I think pain? Why are you asleep? Does my storm mean anything to you? And I think when we ask this question, there's an underlying question here. Does God care? Does God care about me? Does God care about my relationships? God, do you care? One of my favorite names for Jesus is Emmanuel. And in Hebrew, it means God with us. And it's used several times in the narrative to tell us about the coming of Jesus. A virgin will give birth, and he will be called Emmanuel. Jesus will be called God with us. God with us is Jesus. And the narrative of Jesus tells us that Jesus knows what it means to be in relationship with other people. He's a son, he's a brother, and he's a friend. But the narrative of Jesus takes a turn that we may not expect when we think about God. And after years of teaching and preaching and healing, Jesus is mocked and misunderstood by the very people that spent the most time with him. He's denied and he's betrayed by some of his closest friends, by his inner circle. He's arrested, and no one vouches for him or has his back or speaks on his behalf. He's beaten and he's bruised and he's nailed to a cross and he dies there. And he does all of this because being in relationship with you is what he has in mind. The death of Jesus demonstrates to us that he cannot be apathetic because he's walked through some of the same relational wounds as us to an even greater degree. And he's walked through them for us. And the cross of Jesus tells us that he knows what it means to be hurt. He knows what it feels like to be abandoned, and he knows what it feels like to be disappointed, and he knows what it feels like to be alone. So as you wake Jesus up in the storm and you ask him his question, he hears your voice over the roar of the wind and the waves, and he tells you that he cares because he's with you.